Mr. Paulson. I saw your movie, The Damned. Very great, very atmospheric. You should be really proud of the work you've done. I just wanted to
Thanks.
ask, what drew you to this particular project?
Well, it's been a while. I wrote the initial story to it 8 years ago, when I was living in a small fishing village in Iceland. I myself am not from the countryside. I'm from Reykjavik, so I'm from a city. And yeah, it was just the influence of living in a small village. I got snowed in for the winter. And then I always knew about the story of the Draugur, which is what could be, it's like a mythical being in Icelandic folklore where it's almost, you could translate it today as a ghost, but it's actually closer to a zombie. But there were no zombies back then. They hadn't written, they hadn't found figured out what that was. So the Draugur is almost like a kind of a flesh and bone rotting corpse that comes back to seek revenge on the people that wronged them. And then just these interesting stories about fishermen and ships sinking and some people surviving, and some of the poor villages decide to rather just kill the survivors and take what they can and just say that no one survived because, easier. So you have all these interesting stories. And then from developing and writing, the moral question of the film kind of came out of it. And what would you do if you were snowed in for the winter and you yourself and your friends were running low on food, and then you see a ship sinking off your shores? Do you go out and save these poor people that are drowning? Because if you save them and bring them back, you're snowed in for the winter, you barely have enough food for yourself. You will then all starve and die. So it's this interesting moral question of what does one do in a situation like this? And that's where the horror comes from the film, of when a character decides to not save them and strange things start to happen.
And from reading another interview that you did, I understand that you shot the film in Iceland, and then you and the cast and crew had to drive about 10 hours to West Fjords. I'm
Yeah.
sorry if I'm not
No,
I
yeah.
butchered that, but how exactly did you keep the chemistry up between the cast and crew, and how did you maintain worker morale?
Yeah, I mean, it's so important when you're, well, every film, but when you're making a small film, and you have to somehow you have people that are supposed to, in the film, they're supposed to have been living and working together for years. And often when you watch, when actors worked together, suddenly it could be a husband and wife. They're supposed to do an intimate scene and they meet the day of. Hi, wife. Hi, husband. Let's go do what we need to do. And I just think that you're going to get the best out of actors if you can somehow get the morale up and you can somehow figure out a way to make them become friends, basically. And we were very lucky in a way where we were supposed to fly to the West Fjords, but there was bad weather, too dangerous to fly. That means we got to get a coach, and we rented a coach, and we had to drive almost, yeah, like 10 hours. And I didn't know this, but all the actors thought, hey, let's just go buy loads of beer. So they brought loads of beer on the coach. And they started drinking beer, singing sea shanties. And at the end of the 10, 11 hours, everyone was pretty close and good friends by then. And then on the Saturday, there was a rave. And then all the crew and cast went to a small, strange rave in a seaside village in Iceland. And then everyone became even closer after that. And then we started shooting the film. Uh, so it's just these things anything that can kind of get the group to band together will help you in the end. It needs to be one big family because it's so cold in Iceland. Everyone's freezing their butts off, and you're not doing this for money. You're doing this because you want to tell the story. And yeah, the actors and the crew, and also one thing, there was no like actors over there and crew over here. There was no assistants. There was no trailers and stuff like that. It was just everyone at the end of the day, everyone went to the same restaurant, had dinner together, had beers together at the end of the day. And then after 5 or 6 weeks, I think once actors had to kind of start to leave, I think it was quite tough. I think it was a big, nice family. And I know that a lot of the actors are still in contact with some of the crew members because they all became such fast friends.
And personally, as a director, what are some of your who are some of your greatest influences?
Influences. Oof. I'm a bit. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Paul Thomas Anderson. He's always been a a director that it's very interesting. It's because his body of work has is so kind of vast and interesting, and it's almost I my first film that I loved of his was Boogie Nights, and then the older I got, it became There Will Be Blood, and then now I'm even older now. So now Phantom Thread suddenly has kind of become one of my favorites. And then, but now The Master is suddenly coming through. So I think it's very interesting. The older you get, the influences, because I can't really say that there's a that director in that film has influenced me in such a way where my work is like that work. I think it's more looking at the way that they're working, looking at the way that what they're focusing on, in their script, or how they're deciding to shoot a scene. And for him, like you watch Paul Thomas Anderson, you watch someone that was so flashy in his first three films, or four, uh, and and then kind of well, with There Will Be Blood, kind of paring it back. It's very, it is flashy, but it's kind of more, I don't know, grown up, if one can say. He's more assured, I guess, in it. And so yes, There Will Be Blood was a big kind of milestone for me, and had an effect on The Damned in a big way, in the way that we light some of the interior scenes with the candlelight, the way we move the camera in certain scenes. Uh, so yeah, Paul Thomas Anderson has been kind of a guy I go back to again and again, and kind of go back to film school by watching his films.
So, when you're in the process as a director and even as a writer, what do you enjoy? What do you, as a director, enjoy most about your work, and what do you enjoy the least?
There's not really anything I well, maybe the if I start with the least, there's not really anything that I like hate, because like how lucky can one be to be working as a director? But I think maybe the stress levels of pre-production just before you start shooting, you're not in the great kind of, we're developing the script, we're getting the script ready, all your ideas and all the things that you love to do, and then suddenly you're in pre-production, and then the late pre-production, and it's all getting very real, and you're trying to figure out how are we going to do this and how are we going to do that. So that's possibly the most stressful out of the whole period. But I think maybe the where I have the most fun is possibly post-production, because I think that's where I feel I'm constantly learning each project more each time I make something, because it's, I mean, everyone says, yeah, you write one film, you direct the different film, and then you edit and you post another film. It's constantly evolving. But in post production, I'm constantly learning that a film can change so much if you're open to the changes. And so yeah, so for me, what sound can do, and then music, and the color grading. So it's that's the most possibly the exciting. Also, it's a different kind of stress when you're on set and you're shooting. You're just trying to make your days. You're trying to get everything done. You're trying not to screw up. And then when you're in post production, you're like sitting in a sofa, just trying to like make the things you already made better. So it's very very different kind of times.
So where do you hope your career will be in the next 5 to 10 years?
Career. I guess one just hopes that with each film they allow you to make another one. I don't know. Uh, don't don't screw up so badly that they won't let you make another one. I guess that's the thing. Yeah.
And what advice do you have for other filmmakers?
Other filmmakers. I just say keep on creating. I made so many short films before I created my TV show. I actually tallied up my short films at one point, and so I was just constantly trying to learn and figure out how to get better with each short film. So that's what I would say. Just and also if you're not getting your script made, if it's not, people aren't reading it, or if people aren't liking it, write another one. Just don't think that other people have to open a door for you. Just keep on writing, keep on creating. And I'm only just saying what I've done, basically. I've had projects with people who've said no, thank you, and then I've been lucky enough to have the dam to be made. So I would just say keep on creating.
How many short films did you make?
I think it was like 12 in total or something like that, 12 or 13. Like I was very lucky. So I made two two short films before I went to the Icelandic film school. In the Icelandic film school, they you have to make four short films during the 2 years. I was smart in the other realms of the school. They learn acting. The technical side was one thing they learned, and then screenwriters. And everyone has to make short films at the end of every semester. Not everyone wants to direct. Some of them just want to write. Some of them just want to do the technical. Some of them just want to act. So I just went up to everyone and said, "You need a director? I'll direct it. Or you need someone to write and direct? I'll do that. You just want to act in it?" So I was just constantly talking to people, and I did the same thing when I did my master's in the other film school. I just every little thing we had to do, I trying to figure out how can this be a short film, because sometimes it's an exercise. But I'm like, yeah, but what if I get the good cameras? What can I get the cameras during the weekend? Can I get the lights? Can I get some actors together, and suddenly an exercise becomes a short film. Uh, so yeah, that's just the mindset that I was just constantly trying to create, constantly trying to get better, trying to figure out blocking, camera placement. Um, yeah, I mean, I was dragging my mom and my grandma, out to make a couple of short films. I have a very interesting silent film about two older women fighting over a piece of a biscuit, basically, in the kitchen. Um, so yeah, I would just say, yeah, keep creating, and yeah.